Shalom, shalom, shalom. This is Nama with the Great Millstone Camp here in DC. Back for another video. And first and foremost, call hello Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rakal Hakwadash, and of course, double honors go out to the apostles, bishops, and elders of Great Millstone who rule well. Salutations also go out to the fellow Akim that are out there on the highways and byways, all right? Pushing the truth, as they always do, week in and week out. Not to mention the many videos, excuse me, that they do. All right. And they do for the edification of the hopeful elect of our people. All right. Because we realize it's going to be a small number, as the scriptures say. Because, hey, let's face it, the rest of you view this as entertainment. And it's going to be to your own hurt that you do this. But, we do it regardless because that's what we're commanded to do per Ezekiel 2nd and 3rd chapters. All right. That's what we do. So there's no excuse. If you don't get it, it basically means you were never meant to get it. And there's other scriptures on that. All right. But again, we're about the business. So and that's the business of trying to get Jake to repent, because time is short, very short. If you're in the position the Holy Spirit is working on you and with you, you see these prophecies screaming, all right, practically jumping off the pages of the scriptures. So this is no joke. Don't get caught up in procrastinating, all right, as Jake is wont to do. The kings and queens of it. All right, so here we go. Here's the copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Check my volume real quick. All right. Right, that should do it. All right. Fair uses are use permitted by copyright statutes that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. Once again, fair use, fair use, fair use. All right, because I am in no way profiting off of this, or nor to ever intend to. It's just used as a teaching tool. All right. So what we have here today, of course, never knew the young lady personally. I remember her first and foremost from the show Heroes as the cheerleader. And we're talking about Hayden Panettiere. And I didn't pay any attention to this until she mentioned it. This is Sabby Sabs. It's her site. She's out of Boston. And she had recently came out talking about her past dealings with Hollywood and her upbringing. And then it clicked. Oh, shit, here we go again. All right, so let's just go ahead and let me roll the video. I'm going to let it roll on its own for as long as I can, because I don't think I'm going to do the whole 38 minutes here. But to make a point, at least halfway. All right, so here we go. Breaking. All right, she dies after exposing Hollywood. All right, here we go.
Died at 36 years old. Hayden was just recently on a book tour. She was promoting her memoir. And one of the things that is constantly, I guess, revealed throughout these interviews about her book is that she's basically calling out a lot of the things that she went through, not just in her personal life, but also in the entertainment industry. So if you're not aware, she's been doing a number of interviews the past 3 to 4 months or so. I just saw her recently, about a month ago, appear on my homepage on YouTube. And I was like, whoa, oh, Hayden is back, because she took a break from the industry. And that's when I realized that she had a book out and she was doing this book tour. So she's done a number of interviews about that. And now she's dead. Died in Greenville, South Carolina. And people were asking questions because of the things that she revealed in this book. Many of us remember Hayden from, whether it's the soap operas. She's been a child star. She's been acting since she was a kid. She was in Remember the Titans, if you remember that movie with Denzel Washington. But I think she really rose to fame when she played the cheerleader on the show Heroes. If you ever watched that show, you remember the saying was, you save the cheerleader, you save the world. Then she went on to perform as Juliet Barnes in a show called Nashville, which I think was probably one of her more best performances. She was a triple threat. She could sing, act, and dance. And as she played the character Juliet Barnes, she was also singing. So for those who were not aware, the actors on that show were also singing the songs as well. She got married. She had a kid. She went through postpartum depression. She talks a lot about that, gave full custody of her child to her former partner. And she talks about that as well. This is someone that struggled with abuse, that struggled with addiction, and was just out here telling the world her story. And now she's gone. Let's go ahead and get into it, folks. People have a lot of questions about this one.
Just into the newsroom, sad news to report. ABC News has confirmed actress Hayden Panettiere has died. ABC News received a statement from her father, Skip Panettiere, announcing she passed away. No word yet on her cause of death. You will recall Hayden starring in the ABC hit show Nashville and the soap opera One Life to Live. She was also in the movie Remember the Titans. Hayden Panettiere was just 36 years old. We will bring you the latest information as it becomes available right here on Eyewitness News and on ABC7 NY.
36 years old, incredibly young. It is now being reported by the Daily Mail that they are alleging the cause of death to be cardiac arrest. I'm going to show you a snippet from an interview that she had more recently. I believe this interview was just about 3 months ago. Yes, 3 months ago with Jay Shetty, talking about the responsibilities that were put on her as a child actor. And then I'm going to show you another clip where she reveals how she was basically, someone tried to pimp her out without her realizing that, again, while she was still very much in the industry. These are things that people need to hear. Hayden makes it very clear in this interview that her mom, who became her momager, basically told her not to say no. She talks about being a little soldier, that she was just supposed to do what was asked of her. Again, this is someone who has been acting since they were a baby. They were in commercials, even when they were a baby. And I think this speaks volumes about the entertainment industry as a whole. Let's get into it.
I wonder how much of it was something you had to do at home as well.
I want to make it clear that, my father was a lieutenant in the fire department and he had businesses. So I wasn't supporting the family, but I do remember being very young and my mom trying to explain to me that this corporation that she set up, paid for the cars, the lease on the cars and the cell phone bills because it was a tax write-off.
Right.
And I remember that role reversal being incredibly uncomfortable for me, where I was, on one hand, I was still a kid and I was listening to my parents and had to do everything that they told me I could and could not do. But at the same time, I was working hard, making money, and this money was going towards things that I wasn't privy to. So as my dad.
So I would say here again, this is another example where you do have some parents in the business that basically put a lot of responsibility on their kid. Now, she said her dad was a fire lieutenant, so it's not like they did not have any income coming in. But when a parent says to a child that, allegedly says to a child that the money that you're making from your acting is going to pay for the leases on the cars and all that type of stuff, that puts a great deal of stress on a child who basically at that point in time should just worry about being a kid. So we have another child star who has now died, and at a very young age. And if you're like me, if you're a millennial, well, hell, all of you actually, many of us watched her grow up on TV. We watched her grow up in the movies as well. So that's why a lot of people seem to be more familiar with her, because we watched her grow up. And there are things that come with that. There are some of these parents out there, and you guys, you know where I'm coming from. There are some of these parents that want their child so badly to be a star, and they basically are living their dream through their child. And so instead of their child being able to just be a kid and have a normal life, their child becomes their employee. And in a sense, it's like they pimp their child out to the industry to make this money, to live and accomplish the dream that they didn't get to fully accomplish. And we've heard this from a lot of actors that were former child stars about the pressure that was put on them, also, of course, by the industry, but also sometimes by the parents. It's a lot of responsibility.
Would kick my butt if I made people think that I supported the whole family. But then when I got older too, and my mom bought an apartment for me when I was 16, and my whole family lived in it. So again, it was just that very strange, uncomfortable feeling of the role reversal and desperately wanting to still feel like the kid and still feel like I had parents to lean on. I didn't want, even when I was a kid, I was scared of the dark, and I would make my dad lay down next to me. And if his head ever went below mine, I would freak out and make him sit up further so I could, because I wanted to feel like the kid. That is kind of continued on in my life, just wanting to know that if I found myself in a terrible position, that I could call somebody to help me. I could rely on somebody. I wasn't the only person. I wasn't the person that everybody else was relying on, and therefore nobody was there for me.
This is very sad. It's tragic. Again, a child should never have this type of responsibility. And there's something to be said with that when the parent becomes the manager and they stop being a parent. This is another thing that she talks about in her memoir, more so in reference to her mom, where her mom stopped being a mom. And she says her mom basically became her boss. And so imagine being in that position as a child where you have no one really looking out for you.
And that's the thing. Like she said, the mother quit being a mother and started being her boss. And you're going to find out as we go on here what her mother says later on to her. All right, because it's true. People like this, you have to consider if they do this to their own, they don't give a damn about Jake's. All right. And it's going to get a lot weirder as we go on here when when she's recounting what happened. Like this, wow. But this is Hollywood for you. And this goes to show you the lengths that some people will go for fame. And we're not talking about the child here in her case. No, we're talking about the parents. If you remember the late actor Gary Coleman, he had trouble with his parents. And I think he actually ended up suing them, if I'm not mistaken. And there's been several others, This shit is crazy, man. But they have no trouble with handing uh, their children over to these freaks and uh, just weirdos. There's some wicked shit that goes on behind the scenes. All right. And as in this case, whenever someone tends to bring it to light, they end up unalived, or as it was seen. I'm not saying because I don't know specifically, but it's just the timing is. Mm. But I'm also thinking, what a better time to do something to her in this regard. They say it was cardiac arrest, a heart attack, uh, knowing that she had a past history with drugs as a result of what they're talking about here. That has to hurt a child. All right, especially with her mother. Let's keep it going with what her mother told her. But this is real quick. I don't want to get too far without bringing up some scriptures. This is, as soon as I get it here, bear with me. All righty. All right, hold on. The hell? All right. Oh man. All right, let's see. What the hell? Oh, you know what? I messed up. I'm sorry. Hold on. Oh boy. I hit the wrong thing. All right, here we go. Now I gotta go way over here. I messed up. All right, let's go. All right. Uh, bear with me here. Hold on. Oh crap. Now it wants to start acting up. You know what? I'm not gonna even go through this. Hold on. We'll just discount that and go with Old Faithful for me here. Uh, yeah, but what people will do for fame and fortune, as it were, even sacrifice their own kids. But again, this is Babylon. You have to understand uh, the self-professed white man whose biblical nationality is that of Edom in the Bible. He got a lot of his, um, the way he does things from the Hamites. All right. And, in the worship of Molech, it requires the sacrifice of children. Now, let's get what I was thinking about. Let's see. All right. All right. There we go. And go to 14th verse. It says, the murderer rising with the light killeth the poor and needy, and then the night is as a thief. All right. And this goes to, all right, him doing shit, uh, as you know, with the Epstein files and all that. These people are above the law. All right. Who do you think started all these institutions such as Hollywood and all this other bullshit around here? We have to go through rituals and shit. And yes, you do. All right. That's already been proven. What do you think this is about? The movie Eyes Wide Shut. That's exactly what it is. Because it's like one of these things everybody knows. but they choose to be blind to it. Stanley Kubrick's last movie, I do believe, and he died mysteriously. And there's a highly believable rumor about him being in review of his own movie and him getting so upset about the final cut not being what he intended. So evidently they removed a lot of things that, well, I don't know about a lot of things, but some probably important things that he had in there. All right. And I think it was a matter of days or weeks, he ends up dead. All right. So these people did not like the fact that so much attention has been drawn to what they were doing in the dark. All right. There's a reason you haven't seen people doing the perp walk behind these Epstein files, which have, all of a sudden it's gone quiet because of this shit happening over in the Strait of Hormuz. In Iran, which has already won, all right, there are all these videos I got to see. I haven't seen the last Lego video, but America is a laughing stock. Everybody knows that the person sitting in the presidency, all right, is the biggest offender of all. But this is who you ignorant racists pick. All right. And this is a reflection on you. Yeah. That's what it's about. So these people do things with impunity because, hey, they got the money, they got the power. And what you're also seeing a rise of is, and I talked about this over the years many, many times, because this is America. In the times where you have the economy is going down, going to shit, who do they come after? It's Jake. And now you're seeing this rise in lynchings, and they're just dismissing them as suicides or, wow. But I didn't want to go too far because all this is really connected, because who's over us? And, a lot of these things are distractions, but you just had to go in on this because, my God, it's like, can't you see that you're dealing with some wicked individuals, but it's coming time to the end. So, they're getting sloppy. Again, as was prophesied. All right.
Your well-being, the person who's supposed to do that, who is your mom, is managing your career and has now turned into a boss instead of a mom. Who do you go to?
Exactly.
What do you turn to? Mm-hmm. And this is where I believe the substance abuse started to come in, right? Like sometimes with some of these actors as child stars, they've talked about this before, whereas they felt as though there was no one they could really go to that was going to comfort them the way that you should a child. And so they turn to other things, whether it's prescription, pills, whether it's alcohol, whether it's more, hardcore drugs, things like that. They find that type of release in something else because they don't have that comfort, that nurturing that you need as a child from the parent. There's a lot of parents out there, ladies and gentlemen, that just want to get rich off their kid. Mm-hmm. We've heard this story time and time before. And when I was listening to this interview, because I saw this interview when it aired, when I was listening to this interview, to me, Hayden sounded like she sounds so broken in this interview. That sounds like years of built up pain and trying to find a way to release it. And I think that's where the substance abuse may have came in.
Yeah, I mean, and so natural, right? To want that and to seek that is so real and so natural, especially as a young child and kid. And then, of course, with everything else that you're taking on, there's nothing about that feels anything but what every child deserves and what every child wants. And,
Yeah.
Again, we're speaking this, but how much more so with Jake? With what the establishment did with in regard to our families and our family structure. And what you're looking at and hearing here is coming from someone that you, on the surface, because you've been conditioned to do so, let's face it, come from a quote unquote normal home. All right. But this young lady had no chance, as many of, especially in our community, with the single parents or no actual parents and going into the system, as it were. All right. So yeah, a lot of Jakes have mental issues and choose to self-medicate. And as a result, did they get help? Especially my generation and growing up and those that were born in the 70s and 80s. And no, they got jail and prison. Yeah. How about that?
deeply is looking for. But I know in the book you also write about how there's this sense of what you were just saying about collecting all these notes and not wanting to almost let the kids down and become who they need you to be. It feels like that kind of became your relationship with your mum as well, where you didn't want to disappoint her.
Oh my gosh, that was my entire relationship with her. She was my boss. That's how I saw her. Even though she was the most supportive person when I, did what I was supposed to do and did it well and was the one cheering me on. It did feel like that was what I had to do to get her love. And that was, a tough pill to swallow. Everything was business. Everything was business focused. And I started at 8 months old. I can't even remember a time where she wasn't a momager. Where everything didn't revolve around business.
This woman never had a normal childhood. When you come out of the womb already an employee, she never had a childhood.
And there were periods of time as I got older where we spent a lot of time traveling and on the road together, and I was the only person there. So I became the confidant and the assistant and the therapist and the shoulder to cry on and everything but her child.
Have you ever had the opportunity to tell her that and to have that conversation with her?
When I was 19, I finally got the guts got up the courage to split from her as business wise, because I desperately wanted a relationship with her, desperately wanted her to just be my mom. And so she came into my trailer during lunch when we were filming Heroes, and I said to her, I don't want us to work together anymore. I just want you to be my mom. And I remember being hopeful, but there was that part of me who knew her too well. But I also wasn't expecting the reaction that I got, which was, "You owe me." And that's all she said. And she walked out. And part of me was like, "Oh, I'm relieved that it was short, like ripped the Band-Aid off." But then it was like this dark looming cloud, over my head going, what does she mean by I owe her? What form of payment is she expecting? And it was disappointing to find out that it was money and that she didn't pursue a relationship with me.
This is That's incredibly sad. For a parent to tell their child that they owe them. And I guess the owe that she was talking about was money. That is so sad. You know, some of you may be watching now and maybe you didn't always, get along with your parents, or maybe you guys didn't always have like the best relationship. And maybe you're listening to what Hayden, was saying here, and maybe you might be able to look at things a little bit differently. I don't know your situation, but what I'm saying is, my parents and I, when I was growing up, we used to butt heads and things like that sometimes. But as I got older, it wasn't that way. I understood why my parents were as strict as they were, like as I got older. But I have to say, I'm incredibly thankful that I had parents that were very, nurturing, loving. My mother would have never said that to me. Never. And I can't imagine growing up in that environment and having a parent that is that cold. I can't imagine that.
You also have to consider too what Edom's symbol is, being the eagle, and the eagle is a very, very cruel bird. All right, you got to remember these are very what's the phrase I'm trying to think of? They are very low-born people to begin with. All right, they masquerade as if they're so sophisticated and educated and all that mess. It's a facade. All right, that's why it would be in Jake's best interest not to be around these. And they're showing you, I mentioned earlier about the resurgence and these lynchings and everything. It's always been in their heart to do so, or in their mind to do so. They just waiting for the opportunity. All right, which they have now with this jackass and the current administration. All right, back to the video.
So this is what she was dealing with. And that interview was published 4 months or 3 months ago. There's another part here where she called out what happened to her, where it sounds like to me someone basically tried to pimp her out. Listen to this.
About a moment in your career where a friend of yours takes you onto a boat, you're led to a room which has an older man in it, and then basically told to perform sexual acts and,
Oh, yeah. Perspective completely shifted, and I realized that I was in danger. But by the time I'd realized I was in danger, I was quite literally out to sea. And it was that moment shook me and was shocking. And I was quite literally walked down, and I had been having a great time. There was no hints of anything like that happening.
Stop it real quick, because you gotta, people like this, they have a hard time because of their past establishing relationships. She was, I don't know if they were married, but she was with one of the Klitschko brothers. Let's see. I believe there's, I think it was it this one or was it the other one? Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. This thing is a little slow. So bear with me. Yeah, it's her in the picture with him. Let's see. Let's see. Well, that's his record and stuff, but let's see. Life. Amateur career, blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Silas Brewster, blah, 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 blah. Damn it. I didn't want all that. Let's see. Damn it. But in any case, here they are right here. All right. Hayden Panettiere, X. All right. So, yeah.
So it took me, I was shocked. It took me by surprise. And it was somebody led by somebody that I had grown to trust and see as a protector and somebody who had my back. And to be walked down, down the stairs, and it was as like a surprise, presented as though it was like a surprise. And it was this very small room, and she physically put me in the bed next to this undressed man who was very famous and had his hands like this, like this was just an average day for him. And this is.
Notice how she said it was a woman. This is another common thing. A woman did that to another woman. Surprise just takes you downstairs on a boat and puts you next to this naked man who we don't know who that guy was. But according to her, according to Hayden, it was somebody famous. So you see, when we've been talking about the Epstein class, remember how I was telling you this is in a lot of these industries? Whether it's not just obviously, politicians, but also the entertainment industry. You see, this is all throughout. And so Hayden was spilling the beans. This interview was published 3 months ago. She was telling people what was happening in the industry, what happened to her. And then this just goes to show you again how you will have women. As we saw also in the Epstein files, you will have other women that will do the bidding of these predatory men, women who will participate in that act all throughout the industry. And people wonder why. People wonder, like, why did she leave, walk away from the industry? Why did she stop acting? Why did she turn to substance abuse? You see it now? You get it all? And then you have a mom who was your momager who basically, according to Hayden, did not want a mother-daughter relationship with her, just saw her as an employee. Who was she to go to? And then the friend who she said she'd known for quite some time took her downstairs that's also someone that she apparently trusted. So it's a wicked world.
Something that happens all the time. And I waited for her to leave. And I mean, that lion in me, that fire in me, that my hair stood on end, and I became ferocious. I was like, this is not happening. But I had nowhere to hide, and I bolted, and I hid wherever I could think of to hide on a boat. There was no jumping off and swimming away, and there was nobody who was going to. I realized that there was nobody who was going to be empathetic to my situation. That this was nothing new to them.
It is all.
Hayden, I see this has been going on. This is why they won't release the full Epstein files. This has been going on for a long time. And we may be surprised at some of the people that participated in some of these things, the names that have not been named. Now, just 2 months ago, she appeared on CBS Mornings with Gayle King, and she was talking about her book, her memoir, where she was opening up about all these things that were happening to her. So again, this was just 2 months ago where she seemed fine. So I want you to see the difference here.
The Golden Globe nominated actor's career has spanned more than 3 decades, starring in movies and TV shows like Nashville, I love that, Heroes, and the Scream franchise. Now she's sharing her story in her new memoir. It's called This Is Me a reckoning. And reckoning, boy, is the word. To say this is an honest, it's a raw account would be an understatement. She opens up about very difficult topics such as postpartum depression, addiction, physical abuse, and then recovery. Scan the QR code to buy the book. I'm thinking you do want to buy the book. It's a really compelling read. We're happy to say that Hayden Panettiere joins us for her first morning show interview about her memoir. First, how are you feeling? Because I think you unpack a lot in this book, and I would think a lot of it would be difficult to talk about. So how are you feeling as you sit here today getting ready to launch your book tour?
Honestly, I'm always nervous, but this time I'm the rawest version of myself that I've ever been. I'm not walking out, promoting a project or a character that I played or able to hide behind anything. So I feel always a little bit overwhelmed by the subject matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't get easier.
I know, Hayden, let's take a deep breath because you write about the book Life Quakes, which I like that phrase, by the way. You said it's not about losses. When it's tumultuous times in your life and you've had some, you call them life quakes.
Life quakes. Yeah.
And you get through it how?
You get through it by time, finding good therapists, being willing to reflect, check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Really do the work.
But let's talk about your life. You're born, your mom jokes that you came out of the womb saying, thanks, I got it from you.
Yeah.
Which is sort of a telltale about you were feisty from the very beginning.
Yeah.
You say by the time you were 5, you had done 50 commercials. Your mom, from what I read, also was an actress and seemed to take a lot of joy and pride out of what you did too. But it
See what I was saying about living the dream through the child? 50 commercials by the time she was 5 years old.
Also created conflicts between the two of you. It's complicated, the relationship with your mom.
When your mother is chosen to take the 8-month-old baby to the audition rooms, into those audition rooms, and it went from there and progressed into 50 commercials by the time I was 5. I was on a soap opera by 4 years old, and it said it never stopped, and it was every moment on set. I didn't care about anybody else's opinion but my mom's, because I knew that if she was unhappy with my performance in any way, that the rest of the day was going to be ruined.
Yes.
It was going to be a very bad day.
And your mom was tough. You had a lot of, this is what got me, your praise for your over-the-top performances, which you think is a good thing. But what happened when you get the praise for being over the top in your performances?
This is the part that I found one of the most compelling.
Yeah, that's something that I realized that I had been crying. Once people figured out that I could cry on cue the way that I did, it was in everything, literally every scene. And it went from being a kid and having to imagine just that your pet passed away or something. But then as I got older, the imagery became darker and darker and darker. And the emotion that I had to hold within me in order to get those trigger tears going. And it became harder and harder to jump out of it. I didn't know where my character started and where I ended,
and where it began.
Just enmeshed.
But what was interesting,
I heard this before from some other actors that what she just said, she didn't know where her character started and where it ended. So with acting, and it's a different type of job, right? Because you have to become this character. And there are some actors that can take this to the extreme, where they do that type of method acting, where once they are that character, they're that character, like until that project is finished, even when they're.
For example, we used to always talk about Denzel when he played, in Training Day, They're
not on the set, right? And there's something to be said for that. But it's a different type of job where when you walk away from the set, maybe some of those actors don't leave that character completely behind. And so what it sounds like here is that in order for her to get to those emotional scenes as she got older, the images became more darker for her to get those tears to come out.
It's as if you're channeling, you know. Let's go to, I'm going to stop it there as far as the video, but let's see. Where did I have? Let's see. All right. Let's go to, because at a certain point, you know, we left all that behind, and it tells you where I'm going here. All right. Initially, it says walk in love. And what is love? According to the scriptures. All right. It's following to the best of your ability the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. Right. So as we go down here, it says, verse 7 starting, it says, be not ye therefore partakers with them, because up above it tells you all the things, fornication, all uncleanness, and or covetousness, which you know, a lot of people are, especially in this day, especially a certain people, you know, that's what they're motivated by. All right. Let it not be once named among you as becoming saints. All right. Because we're supposed to leave all this behind. All right. So it says, be not ye therefore partakers with them, for ye were sometimes darkness, but now are ye light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. 9, for the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness and righteousness and truth, proving what is acceptable unto the Lord. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. All right. So that's why you will probably never see someone that, you know, that works in that industry. All right. Again, as we should say, it's going to be out there on the, you know, let go of all that to come out and host with any of the camps, or how hard it is to walk away from that. All right. Once you've tasted, you know, the things that you're exposed to in that environment. All right. It says 12, for it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret, as I mentioned before. All this, these people being exposed, these things that were done in the dark, and are now coming into the light. So that's Luke, let's see, 8 and 17, and Luke 12 and 2. I'll get that after this. All right. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. To whatsoever doth make manifest is light. All right. Wherefore he saith, awake thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead. And Hamashiach Yahushua shall give thee light. All right. Now let's go to what I had quoted. Let's go to Luke. I'm going to go straight to 12 and 2. All right. It says, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, neither hid that shall not be known. You know, in the elder apostle Tahar, you know, we have these end of the year meetups where we curse Babylon, you know, the 31st of December, right into January 1st. That's what we do. And he deemed this year the year of basically everything being exposed for what it is. All right. And you're, oh my goodness, aren't you seeing it? All right. So that's going to be it for this. I've stopped it with roughly 12 minutes left. All right. Yeah. But like I said, from the time she was 8 months old up until she, you know, passed away, she was constantly on, you know, no childhood. But this is the sacrifice. All right. A lot of the parents make. All right. Damn shame. All right. Once again, breaking Hayden Panettiere dies after exposing Hollywood. The timing. And again, it's a Savvy Sab site. Hey, I'll put the link of this, of course, in the description box. And hey, just to let you know again, time is short. All right. As Revelation 12:12 says, you know, he knoweth, his devil knoweth he hath but a short time. All right. So he's going to let his nuts hang, so to speak. Hate to be graphic like that, but as they say, you know, this is it. So you can't be in that scared spirit. All right. So, because you know they're going to come after us, as they're already starting to more and more find them some courage. And, you know, these Vocabites, as they call themselves, and, you know, they're doing it all for exposure and for filthy lucre's sake. And, you know, we know that. But in any case, that's on them. All right. So with that, once again, I hope whoever reviews this video has been edified. That's what we all aim to do here at Great Millstone. We filter everything through the scriptures. All right. So you will know time is indeed short. All right. So you can't be straddling the fence. This is the time to get yourself right. Repent. All right. While time yet remains. So I also like to encourage you to remain circumspect out here. Keep your eyes and ears open, because it's only going to get worse from here on out. These people are bugging out. So with that, until the next video, hey, shalom.